Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is Minutes with Matt and Bo. I'm Bo Wolf. I'm the president of ClearPath Consulting, paving the way to your success. And I'm just here to talk to you about business and things that make business work, how to get better production, how to do things in your company that will make people want to work with you. And here's Matt.
How you doing? I'm Matt Martin. I am not a consultant, but I have been in business. I've worked in banking and leadership now for over 24 years. And I've learned a lot of great things along the way that I'm dying to share with everybody. So we have this vlog that we started as a way to help you. And this is our first one, so we're really excited about it, and we're excited about the journey that we're embarking on. So today's vlog, what we're going to be talking about are two questions that, in speaking with Bo, I thought they were really awesome and very powerful. And I thought this would be such a great way to just start this vlog and have every single episode build off of this. So Bo, they were your questions, please.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, so what these are the two questions. Is do you trust the people you work with? Think about that for a second and then turn it around and go, hey, do the people you work with trust you? And how would you know that? How would you know if the people that you work with actually trust you? They don't just get along with you. They don't do what you say because you said it. I mean, how do you build trust with these people? And so my question is, have you ever thought to ask the people, do you trust them enough to ask them that they trust you? I mean, you have to think about it. But in my world, I've been around a lot of people where the owner would walk around and he'd stamp his feet, whatever, and expected people just to do what he said. But he didn't have the trust. So as soon as he said it, they'd agree. When he would leave, they'd complain. And it would slow down. It would slow down their production. It would slow everything down. So we came up, Matt and I talking, came up with the velocity of trust. And if you think about it, the more trust you have with people, the more velocity there is. In other words, they'll get the work done ahead. There's no question they're on it. They're not arguing amongst themselves or complaining about you. They're saying, hey, you know, this is what he wants to do. Let's go. We're a team. Move out, move out. What kind of experience have you run into, Matt, using that?
I think in the past what has happened is when I've had leaders ask that question, do you trust the organization? Do you trust us? We were kind of made to feel that we had to say yes and kind of drink the Kool-Aid per se, where in reality, I'm not sure in the past that I've always trusted the people I've worked for or with. There have been some great organizations and leaders that have changed my life and given me opportunities that I never dreamed I could have. But there's been other organizations that you could tell that when that was being asked, there was an agenda being pushed that was on the sidelines, that we'd all just kind of roll our eyes afterwards, like Bo said, kind of congregate. Can you believe this is the shit they're spewing, kind of a thing? Or, you know, can you believe these words coming out of their mouth? What's the new agenda for the month, kind of a thing? Or are they going to ask us to work overtime and they're just buttering us up with this and a pizza party, right? We've all been there. And it's never a fun place to be when you're questioning, you know, the true integrity and the intentions of the organization or even just the person that you're working for. So, you know, having trust in the people that you work for and with is so critical and so important to having a productive day and building relationships, because at the end of the day, you know, having trust, it's all about respect, and it's respecting the people that you work with and for. And man, that's such an easy thing to lose, and it's such a hard thing to build, but it's so important that when you build it, you never lose it. And even sharing and communicating a tough message that's clean, transparent, and that your team will know that what you're being told or what they're telling you could be something really easy or difficult, but you know at the end of the day that you have each other's backs, and the true intentions of trust is really, you know, for me it's respect and the communication piece.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times, and you know, it's funny. I've been a consultant for a long time, and I've worked with, you know, hundreds of people, And it's funny, when I spoke with Matt, I said, hey, when you think of, trust, what do you think? And he said, respect. And I was like, that's part of it, but it's such a valuable part of it. So let's pull back for a second. And do you trust the people you work with, and do the people you work with trust you? That's a big question, but let's go to some kind of results. How can you find out? What would you have to do to get people to be honest with you? And I don't believe talking to them up front is going to help. What I think you need to do is do a survey with the people you work with. There's a lot of them online. You can bring in a consultant like me that's going to do them and write them for you and put it online. But what you want to do is get something about 10 to 15 questions, just a small program, put it together, and ask everyone what they think of you, and cover all aspects of the way you run your business, the way you talk with them, the way you treat your vendors, the way you work with your suppliers, everything that you do. Put it together into, like I said, 10 to 15 questions. Ask everyone you work with. And I mean direct reports, like if you're the supervisor and you have 6 different people out of your foreman that work for you, ask them. Give them all the survey and say, look, no one knows who filled out what. This is, you're just going to fill in your answers. It's going to be online, so I can't tell you handwriting. Please be honest. Throw whatever you need to throw at me, because I want to be the best person I can be. And if you help me do that, I'm only going to be a better boss for you, and you're going to want to work for me, and we're going to build something that is really incredible, and it's called transparency. We love transparency. We want people to be able to walk up to us and just let us know the way it is so we can fix it. And that's where, like Matt said, respect comes in. But think about the understanding that you get from that. It's incredible. The power is huge. So think about the question one more time. Do the people that work for you, do they trust you? What do you think of that, Matt? What do you think the evolution of that would be in a company? How do you think that would happen?
I think a lot of communication, which is huge. When things get communicated, as a leader, I try to over communicate. Sometimes I get myself in trouble because I would disclose too many things, but I felt like it was important to the team to understand the why we were doing certain things, why initiatives were changing, why they were staying, kind of what was going well, what isn't, and what we can do better. And it really helped with the communication piece, just being real, just laying it out there for them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It wasn't always fun, but I felt like the people that work for me deserve it. And to hear those things, I know that's how I want to be communicated with. I don't always want to hear that the grass is green, or that the glass is full. Sometimes when things aren't going well, or there's an opportunity to fix things and the glass is half full, or in some people's eyes half empty, it's important to just lay it out there and not beat around the bush. And I think people really understand and appreciate how hard that is to do, to communicate, but I also know it's equally as hard to hear it from your leader sometimes. But to me, the communication piece is so important in building trust, because if there's things that I can't disclose as a leader, but I'm asking you to do something and just trust me, you're never going to trust me. If I teach you the why and communicate why we're doing certain things, that there's a bigger picture, that this is maybe step 1 of 12 steps or 10 steps to get us to the end result, the communication piece up front is so critical and important to have people on board, because really once that train's moving, it's not going to slow down and stop to understand it later.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Matt talked about communication. It's always funny. But I said, hey, do a survey, right? Well, what do you do with the survey results? Well, what you do with the survey results is you look at the answers. And you're going to have probably 2 or 3 of your questions are going to really shine. In other words, they're really hammering you on this, because this is something you need to fix. And why is that so good? Matt said, communication, what's the other word? Respect. Right, so if you communicate to everybody, listen, we did the survey. It came out that I have A, B, and C as my biggest weaknesses as a leader for you guys. I want to work on that. But you need to tell me when I'm not doing that well so I can get better and I can see it and understand it better. So what it is you put the survey out there and now you get team support. And if you're a supervisor in a company, you know what? You're probably evaluating them. So they're sitting down with you and you're doing their quarterly evaluations or maybe biannual evaluations, and you're telling them what they need to do to make themselves better for your company or for your, for your business, however you want to look at that. But in reality, actually, when they get to do the survey and they kind of evaluate you, they really start to feel like they're part of something that matters. And the direction that they want you to go in are these 3 high points out of those 16 questions, and they're going to get to understand. He really wants to be a better boss so we can be a better company. When he says he's talking about teamwork and he wants us all to be responsible and all to take ownership, he actually wants us to because we can do better for each other and help each other grow. And Matt's worked with a lot of different companies where he's really helped his teams and they've really come together and he's stood out from everybody else. That's why it's so much fun to talk to Matt. But when he talks about respect and he talks about communication, it's because he's lived it. It's not just words. So Matt, elaborate on some of the stuff that you've done that's really made a difference.
So going back to the surveys that we just talked about, I've used, and we're not paid for this at all, so it's not us being sponsored by or anything like that, is www.surveymonkey.com. They have free surveys on there that you can put together, and it states and allows your team to be anonymous, because that's a critical piece, is that they're anonymous unless they don't want to be anonymous. So you want to let them answer the questions truthfully and without recourse. Sometimes you think that you're really great at doing something way up here, and when you do these surveys, because I've had them done, you hear from your team that your skill set's really down here. So you just have to learn to position things and do things a little bit differently or a lot differently to get to that level of whatever that core competency is to bring it up here. Now, the most critical thing in doing these surveys, I can't stress this enough. If you're going to do the survey, make sure that you have a meeting afterwards with your team to talk about the results and then talk about the changes that are going to come from the survey. Because you don't want your team to ever feel like they took the time to fill out a survey, to give their feedback, and then it was just flushed down the toilet. You want to make sure your team feels valued, and that this is an initiative that's not just important to you, but everybody. And again, it goes back to that trust. You're telling them that you trust them to give their feedback, and you have to give your trust to them that you're going to take their feedback and do something with it and make changes. You never want to do a survey and not let there be a change afterwards. And you can start with something small, which is what I suggest. Don't jump into the big issue that you see there. Jump into something small and take the steps to get to whatever that big issue is. Because if it's a big issue today and it's way up here and you're starting with something down here, you might quickly find that these little things add up and this problem here goes away because it's already evolved and it has already been corrected with other actions, or people realize that what they thought they were very unhappy with or that there was an opportunity with, once they realize or they put a spotlight here, they might realize that this here really has nothing to do with their day-to-day and they're caught up on nothing. And it might just be more of a one-off that can be worked on later. But either way, it's something that can still be addressed, and have workout sessions afterwards to kind of talk about, as a team, how can we do these things better, or as an individual, and ask yourself that hard question is, how do I get better? Because it's easy for us to all talk about our faults. It's hard to ask for somebody's strengths and get an honest answer without a, I hate doing this kind of a thing, or when somebody tells you that you're not good at something that you think you are. So it's really important to just have those components and pieces together with the survey, that it's not a one and done, that it's an entire action plan that kind of goes together.
Yeah, hey, let me stress, Matt made some really good points there, which, thank you, Matt, that was great. and I'm going to take this a little different, and Matt will get a kick out of this because I'm going to talk about a bank account. The survey, okay, it's an emotional bank account, okay? So I want you to understand what Matt says. You got to follow up on it. If you're going to gain interest in a bank account, you got to make sure you have money in there and that you keep adding to the money to make more money, right? So think about this. The survey is a $100 bill. You put that survey in there and now you've got 16 surveys back. Now you have $1,700, okay? So wow, $1,700. Now we need to collect interest on that. How do we do that? It's by responding to what you received in the surveys. You know, no one knows who said what in there, but there may be, like I said, out of the 16 questions, 3 of those questions really explode. Now those questions are your interest rate. That's the rate. So if you answer those questions and say to your people in that meeting, hey, listen, I noticed 3 things I really need to fix, and I really appreciate everyone being so honest with me because now I know what to work on. These 3 points I need to get better at so I can be more successful as your leader, and I want you to know I'm going to work on that, and you need to tell me if I slack on it because you need to hold me accountable because I hold you accountable. So let's be a team and let's work on that. But that's an emotional bank account. Think about that. And if you have an emotional bank account that's full, it's a great feeling. And when you start spending that by making mistakes, which we all do, you can still build it back up. But you have to realize the only way you build those bank accounts is by telling people you know you've made a mistake and you're apologizing for it and what you're going to do to resolve it. That's a win-win. Does it make sense? Both of you win on that because you're growing inside and out, and the people that work for you see it and they want more of it. There you go. That's how it works. So do that survey, be successful because you know what's really going on in your company, and everything else will just happen because you fixed the problems with that velocity of trust.
So I'm sure you're asking yourself at this point, what questions should be on the survey? What do I include? We'll cover that in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, that'll be a blast, man. I'll have you check me out. That'll be great.
So what we're asking for you right now, 1, click the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen right here. And 2, we thank you for your time for being with us. This was exciting doing this. Can't wait for episode number 2. If there's anything you want to include, let us know. Even if you want to be a guest, let us know. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.